5th place or higher. That's what Sebastian Vettel has to achieve if he wants to win his 5th Drivers' Championship. And it's going to be a massive, massive feat with him being 59 points behind Lewis Hamilton. Now, for Ferrari this season, it's been actually quite a good season on their behalf, because obviously, as you've probably seen if you do follow Formula 1 quite closely, you'll see that Ferrari haven't really been in the shout of winning any sort of drivers or constructors titles for a long time. Probably, I would say, well, ever since the last time they won one, which was about 10 years ago. So, and even then they just got over the line then. So obviously 2017 it's been a very, very strong season for Ferrari, but now when the time matters and when the points matter, everything has just gone wrong. So I think this is like 2 retirements and like 3 races for Ferrari. You know, these tracks that they've been to, such as Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, was supposed to be on Ferrari, on Ferrari's side, and it just hasn't gone for them. So the question pretty much in this debate, Joe, is what's gone wrong? Why has Ferrari all of a sudden just went from really, really, competitive with Mercedes, on, level pegging with Mercedes, even beating them, to then becoming, I don't know, Ferrari of 2015, Ferrari of 2016. It's just very, very confusing. Now, obviously, me and Lyle, we are, passionate. I wouldn't say we're passionate about Ferrari, but I think we respect Ferrari in the sense that, that it is good that they are back to where they should belong. Now, as I was saying, it's literally been about 10 years since they last won the constructors in 2008, and since then it's been I would say a roller coaster of a ride. 2010 was, I think, it was like the last time they had a proper good chance of winning it. Even then, Red Bull and McLaren were just too strong. Ferrari fell off the pace quite early on in the season as well. 2011 was poor. 2012, they lost out at the start, even though Alonso nearly won the Drivers' Championship. Massa didn't really contribute that much. 2013 was a bit better, but 2014 was, let's not even begin with that. So, and obviously 2015 was a bit better. 2016 was really, really bad. So 2017 was obviously the year where I would say Ferrari surprised us a lot with the pace that they had and the fact that they were able to actually compete with the Mercedes. So if you want to break down where pretty much where Ferrari is just like stopped, where the form stopped basically. So obviously if you look at the calendar and the race results from, let's say, Australia to, I don't know, Canada, that's when Mercedes overtook Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and they've stayed there ever since. It was literally Vettel, Hamilton, Vettel, Hamilton. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Both drivers on the podium. It was Vettel, Hamilton in Australia. Then it was Hamilton, Vettel in China. Come to Bahrain, Vettel, Hamilton. Then Russia, it was Bottas, Vettel. So obviously Hamilton finished in P4. So then it was advantage Vettel. However, then you come to Spain, Hamilton wins the Grand Prix, Vettel goes into P2. Monaco comes around, and it's dreamland for Ferrari. P1, P2, Hamilton P7. It was an absolutely awful Grand Prix for him. Obviously, starting, I think it was P16 after he did crash in qualifying, Adrian Stoffel. So obviously, swimmingly for Ferrari. Come into Canada, obviously Lewis Hamilton, obviously he does really well there. Now, obviously, when Baku came around, when you had that that collision, everything went obviously a bit sour for both of Mercedes and the Ferrari, because none of them finished on the podium for the first time. Either of them finished on the podium for the first time this season. Obviously, none of them been on the podium with Stroll, Bottas, and Ricciardo. I was going to say right in there. Ricciardo obviously being on the podium then. So obviously at this point, Vettel is 25 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and Ferrari is 17 points ahead of Mercedes in the constructors. So obviously, what could possibly go wrong? Everything, let's say, because since the halfway point of the season, let's say Silverstone, Hamilton has won the podium 6 out of 7 times. That's incredible. That's either P1, P2 or P3. The Hungarian Grand Prix was the only Grand Prix he didn't do that, which was actually P4, which he finished in at a track where it wasn't going to favour the Mercedes. Sebastian Vettel, however, since Silverstone, round 10, halfway point, up to the Japanese Grand Prix, has finished on the podium 4 times in those 6-7 races, and has also had 2 retirements in 3 races in them occasions. Now, Ferrari fans, you might be familiar with this little thing right here. Now, this thing that you're seeing right in front of you now is, let's say, 50 to 57 quid. Well, pounds, obviously. If you come from England, obviously it'll be a different currency wherever you are in the world. However, this probably cost you your championship. This sort of thing. Obviously not this exact thing, obviously, we're not that good. We're good, but not that good of getting the actual parts. But that cost you the championship, in my opinion. Spark plug failure, apparently it was £57. Cost obviously the spark's not really going through the engine component unit very, very well, losing power massively, and obviously Vettel was losing out. So obviously there was one little problem, and obviously they knew that they had that on the grid. You roll into Singapore, beforehand in Singapore, when obviously was massively misjudged at the start, and then obviously Malaysia came in right and had that problem, and then retired. Obviously Sebastian Vettel never really had the pace, did he? Unfortunately. So I think if you had to think about it for a bit, Ferrari has never been a one for a competitive race against the Mercedes ever since the dominant era now, because obviously Ferrari have been so far behind the pace. Let's say it's almost been like a bit of an impossible struggle to catch up with them, and now they've actually had a good chance. They've almost fell behind with development against the Mercedes, and I think that is how the Ferraris are of battling alongside. Massively behind the Mercedes. So a lot of fans were saying, us included at the start of the season, was saying that Ferrari's pace was just unbelievable. It was a lot quicker. They were matching the Mercedes. However, if you break down the results, which I've got in front of us now, you will actually see that Hamilton has been I wouldn't say unstoppable. He's been on formidable form against Sebastian Vettel. So in terms of pole positions, Hamilton's got 10 pole positions so far compared to Vettel's 3. That's kind of bad, in my opinion. Fastest laps, Hamilton's got 7 and Vettel's got 3, and when he got to race wins, Hamilton's got 8 and Sebastian Vettel's got 4. So obviously you can definitely tell that Lewis Hamilton's has got the upper hand. But obviously if you think about how competitive it was at the start of the season to where those stats are now, it's like something's went wrong in the area of that midfield of like, hang on a second, Ferrari was there, but now all of a sudden they're not. Obviously came right and fallen away just ever so slightly. And now all of a sudden Sebastian Vettel is, and I thought Ferrari was supposed to be favouring Sebastian Vettel because he's their number one driver, 4-time world champion. So if you want my opinion as to why I think what's going on with Ferrari, I think it's obviously they're trying to keep up with the parts, upgrading the parts, but I think that they've just kept the eye off the ball a bit, maybe looking towards next year's car as well, losing a little bit of track of this year's car, and I think Mercedes have just got the upper hand far too much, and I think that's how they've just kind of pulled away, focused on this season, and just like they've got better upgrades, they've got the better R&D, they've researched it better than what Ferrari have, they've upgraded better than what Ferrari have. I just think, in my opinion, Mercedes have just been pretty much unbeatable, I would say, and I think they will be unbeatable. I can't see Ferrari winning another race from now till the end of the season. So obviously, by the sounds of it, Hamilton is obviously going to win. It is inevitable that Hamilton is going to win this championship as well. Very, very disappointing for Sebastian Vettel, in my say so as well, and obviously Ferrari. I would say definitely losing out on the constructors. So Lyle, obviously it has been a shame for Ferrari losing out like this. Now we all know that it has been down to, let's say, a bit of luck, you could say, for the Mercedes guys to because Ferrari should literally be against obviously competitive with Mercedes like they have been, I would say, at the first part of the season. But this season, it just hasn't gone Ferrari's way. I mean, obviously I've had my say on it. What do you think's gone wrong at Maranello? It's confusing.
Now, I mean, yeah, I mean with Ferrari, how they're getting on. Now, how I see Mercedes this year is I feel like they haven't had the pressure that they have in the other years. Obviously, 2014. Well, no, sorry. I mean, it's 2014. Not as much because it was all about Red Bull, of course. Winning before that. 2015, they had they had a lot of pressure on them. 2016, they had a lot of pressure on, and it was always about Nico and it was always about Lewis. It was always going to be Mercedes, and if it was anybody else, that would have been unbelievable. It was two other people. Well, it was one team, two people in the form of the Red Bulls. That was two massive races, and as you know, we've covered them before. So that's when they had all this pressure. Now we rolled into this year. Sebastian Vettel took the opening race in Australia, and as Jordan said, they had a better start to the first part of the season. Sebastian Vettel was on top. He was leading the World Championship, for most of those races as well. Obviously coming into the, almost concluding the first half of the Formula 1 season, really on top. winning races left, right, and centre, making appearances with Lewis Hamilton on the grid, obviously swapping positions and things like that. And I think when it got to about, I know Formula 1 is a very fast-paced sport, so even after about Australia time, people probably realised that it was going to be Ferrari's season, this, and there's a lot of times in stats, a driver has won Australia or the first race of the season, and he's gone on to win the World Championship. So I think Ferrari kind of built up this kind of pressure, on their shoulders. Obviously, that we've done well. Sebastian's in this position, which obviously he hasn't been in this position at all with Ferrari. Yeah. He needs to be. Obviously, remember last year, 2016, he had a terrible career. He had a terrible season. So did Kimi Räikkönen. Well, Kimi Räikkönen's was okay. Seb's was terrible. Including getting caught in problems, reliability, obviously crashing with Fiat, for example, things like that. So I think Ferrari kind of put more weight on their shoulders when they lifted that off Mercedes' shoulders. You know what I mean? So Mercedes had that weight, and then now Ferrari have it. And I think Mercedes have always kind of they haven't flew under the radar, but they haven't had that pressure that Ferrari have had on. And then coming into the second half of the season, for example, when they had that summer break, Lewis and Valtteri and the team got, they got prepared, they got ready for a season where, to be honest, the spotlight. I mean, yes, Lewis Hamilton won in Silverstone. Yes, he won in Hungary. Yes, he took the lead. He was going in with the gap, obviously going down, and then obviously he took the lead from Sebastian Vettel. So the Mercedes, they were getting back up to form, but they were still flying under the radar with very little pressure. And then it's the way that Mercedes have kind of gone under Ferrari to take this from them. They've just done what they can. They've kept the nose clean, and they've basically, I think they've it's not really slow and steady wins the race, John. I'm not trying to say that, because obviously Mercedes are one of the best teams we're going to see in Formula One today. Obviously, almost making big strides like Red Bull in terms of how far what they've achieved in such little time. But it's kind of like Ferrari had all this pressure on the shoulders, and Mercedes have just kind of gone under the radar. No problems. They haven't crashed, for example, because obviously Seb kind of crashed. Well, he crashed in Singapore, obviously a big one. He caused that brake test in Baku. So that's him. Obviously his misdoings. Yeah. Obviously reliability problems. Mercedes haven't done any. So they've worked on the car. They've done a lot, and I think they have the two really reliable drivers. And it's almost about that reliability, and it's almost about that. Just Mercedes they've kept the nose clean, and they've done what this season kind of shouldn't have happened for them. Ferrari should have maybe won the World Championship in the constructors and for sure the drivers, but then Mercedes were like, right, we're not going to stand for this. It doesn't matter how much of a big show Ferrari are going to do, and however much people want to say, oh, Ferrari's back, and obviously, as John said, it's been 9 years since obviously they won the constructors, and 10 years since they won the drivers with Kimi Räikkönen. So as much as people want to say that, and Ferrari had all this pressure on the shoulders, Mercedes just kept the nose clean. They did what they did. Lewis Hamilton, really, really strong, breaking records. He matched Ayrton Senna in Canada, and then he went on a match and then beat Michael Schumacher's pole position record, and then now he's only 30 wins away from Michael Schumacher's 91. And people, I mean, he can achieve that. I think he can achieve that next year, or at least even 2019. As long as he stays in Formula 1, which is only 2 seasons away, so he probably could. So I think all these kind of things add up to making him just an unbelievable, just really an unstoppable force. It'll give him more, hype in the team. It'll give him, more of a boost in the team. I think Mercedes really have just played their cards unbelievably right, and I wouldn't say it's luck, because they haven't really played on Ferrari's, reliability problems. I think the thing is, it's just Mercedes have they've kept this season really, really clean with the attributes and how they've gone on. And Valtteri's helped as well, which we discussed in episode 73, so go and check that out if you haven't already. Obviously I mentioned that, me and John talked about that. Obviously, what did Valtteri do for Mercedes, because I think that is really, really strong, that they have both kind of pulled their weight in the team, but obviously it also is the team that have helped with that. They're going to win the Constructors, absolutely unbelievable from them. Lewis is probably going to win the World Championship. Now, if Seb has got a fighting chance, as John said, now everyone's got a fighting chance. He likes the USA. 2013, fantastic race by him. Obviously, this was in the big string of his 9 in a row that he got in 2013, obviously to conclude his career with Red Bull. But we also know that Lewis Hamilton loves the track. He's won it in 2012. The inaugural event at Austin within that McLaren, again, so obviously his last season with McLaren, formidable, and he's also won here with Mercedes. So they are really, really strong at the moment. And these tracks, they've won here before. The tracks that we have left, obviously, America, Mexico. I mean, Mexico, come on, Seb. Aren't you a little bit worried about that, after what happened last time? Brazil, we know Lewis loves that track. And, of course, Abu Dhabi, we know that Lewis Hamilton loves that track. He won here in 2014. To take his World Championship, his first one, obviously, since 2008. So that's the gap of, about, 5-6 years. So that was amazing for him as well. So these tracks that Mercedes are heading into, they've done really well before, Ian. And it looks really, really strong for Mercedes, Jordan. I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing from them. And on Ferrari's side, it's all about just trying to keep that car reliable, trying to manage the pod, and trying to manage the drivers. Now, it's Ferrari's reliability that's kind of a little bit of a shock. Now, when Red Bull, okay, when in 2013 and even in 2014, well, no, sorry, I don't mean 2013, I'll change that. In Red Bull's career, obviously when they were dominating in that, when Red Bull had a reliability problem, okay, when they had a retirement, for example, the big one was Silverstone 2013, and then again in 2014 with Red Bull, when they started to retire from races, when they started to have reliability problems, that was unbelievable, and that was like the fall, like a giant is falling. And when Sebastian Vettel has two problems back to back in qualifying, where he doesn't actually qualify, but he has problems also in qualifying and in the race, it's very, and also Kimi Raikkonen, it's quite daunting, isn't it, that Ferrari have kind of they're having a bit of bad luck, and they're also not managing, they're not able to manage the car like they are. So do you think it's just the luck? Do you think it's just Ferrari's having a little bit of a bad spell of luck, which, to be honest, plays into a lot of sports? A lot of people have bad luck and things like that out there. So do you think it's just playing into bad luck, or do you think Ferrari are just letting the ball slip from under them? Do you think they're just not staying on top of it like Mercedes are? Or, as I said, John, do you think it's just a little bit of luck that's just letting Ferrari down at the moment?
I think luck has definitely played a part of it. Let's say. Now, if you think about it, definitely Mercedes. Let's take Singapore for example, right? Because that Mercedes was supposed to be nowhere near the pace of the Ferraris. Obviously, Sebastian Vettel on pole position, his third pole position of the season. Let's not forget, guys. So obviously, he's got a really good chance of winning the race. However, obviously, what happened at the start, obviously, it favoured in Hamilton, and even he said that he wasn't going to win the race. So obviously, I wouldn't have thought he was going to do that, but obviously he did that as well, and the advantage just kept on coming, really. So now, obviously, if you think about it, to the last time, or one of the last times Ferrari won the constructors, I would say they were very, very lucky in winning it, because McLaren got kicked out of the championship, if you remember. So there's some more luck there as well. And then obviously as time went on, they've just always been out developed by either Red Bull or McLaren, obviously as recently as Mercedes. So I think look has to play as part of it. Of course it does, because obviously Hamilton's had to rely on luck to win championships. Rosberg has, Vettel and Alonso and all these brilliant drivers have all had to rely on luck, to win these things. However, it's always about, it's like you said, the reliability of these cars, the reliability of these drivers as well. So, I mean, obviously, it is just really like mix and match at the moment. But it's just so like frustrating for Ferrari at this moment, because they're literally kicking themselves. They're literally tripping over their own feet, basically, at what they're doing now. Obviously, just touching on what you were saying about how the lack of retirements at the start of the season. In fact, both Mercedes and Ferrari's first retirements, let's say one was reliability, one wasn't, came at the same time at the Spanish Grand Prix. Well, obviously Raikkonen retired, as did Bottas. So obviously there it is again. Obviously, as to how tight it was at the start, as like now how they've just drifted apart. And obviously Ferrari would be like, well, if this season hasn't gone our way, then when will it? And obviously now the question is still, can anyone beat the Mercedes? Because we thought Ferrari could, and obviously it's showing like they can. So maybe Red Bull next season might go, you've had your chance, it's our turn to come back. So, I mean, Lyle, let's say next season, can Ferrari actually one day beat the Mercedes on a level playing field? Nothing to do with luck, nothing to do with reliability. Let's say that four of their cars will finish every single race of the season. They've got a similar cars to like to have this season to next season. Can Ferrari beat the Mercedes on sheer pace?
No, that is a really hard one. Now, Mercedes are very, very strong in a straight line. They're very strong on most circuits, but I think that Ferrari kind of, the tracks like the more technical circuits, I always think Ferrari are better at. Mercedes are just, they have a really, really strong package in a lot of races, but I also think that the faster circuits, also the more durable circuits, are where Mercedes, kind of win. It depends on the track, and it also depends on the driver as well, because if you know Formula One, it's a little bit like other sports as well. Getting into the details of how you play it and stuff like that. It's not just what you see on the outside. A driver and a team, a lot of people who don't really watch, pay much attention to Formula One, John, they'll say things like, it's all about the car, it's not about the driver. But in this sense, let's say, your scenario, it does play into who's driving the car. And it also plays into Lewis Hamilton because, there's been moments this season, and I think this is going to go down as one of his best seasons, especially if he wins the World Championship, because obviously, he's beaten adversary, because he's had Sebastian Vettel, which, to be honest, I mean, just quickly before I mention mine, do you think this is his biggest rival, not biggest rival, but do you think this is his biggest challenge in his Formula 1 career? Or would you obviously say that people like Nico Rosberg and then obviously Felipe Massa, let's say in 2008, were bigger? Because in my mind, I would actually say yes. I wouldn't say yes because it's been heated, because they've argued and stuff. For example, Lewis and Nico did, which we all know that they did. Even though Seb and Lewis, of course, have, because remember the brake test, they were, squabbling, they were really mad at each other about that. But Lewis and Nico argued a lot, and there was a lot of publicity when there shouldn't have been publicity, in terms of like, oh my god, their family, they've known each other for a very long time, and now they're in the same car, in the same team. This is a battle of, for example, like Germany and Italy, and there's a battle of Mercedes and Ferrari. It's a battle of Seb and Lewis. It's a battle of two continents. It's a battle of two very different people with massive stakes going for them. Two multiple world champions. And yes, I would say this is his biggest rival, Jordan, that he's had in his Formula 1 career overall. Would you agree, or would you say that, for example, like Rosberg or Massa was bigger, when they were battling them for the championship?
I would definitely say that Sebastian Vettel has been the hardest driver Lewis Hamilton came up against, without a doubt, because he's never really had a proper competitor. Now, if you throw back to 2008, I would say that obviously that was a very close season between him and Massa. And obviously, if you throw back to 2007, when he was up against the likes of Fernando Alonso, his teammate, and Kimi Räikkönen, obviously he did lose out, but only just as well. But I mean, then I think the formula was different back then. And obviously Hamilton was just he was a new kid, he was fresh face, so you can't really count that in a way. And then obviously coming through, he's never really had a proper championship fight against I would say a proper championship fight up until 2014 when he came up against his teammate Nico Rosberg. But for me, I thought that was only just a show pony type of a rival, because there's something about Hamilton Rosberg that, yes, it was exciting, but there's just something about Rosberg that I didn't really see. I thought he was only there because the car was good. I thought he was like you hate your Kovalainen, and in that Mercedes, just he's there for the crack. I don't know, like I wanted someone like Alonso alongside him, or even Vettel for that matter. Maybe someone someone really good to actually put him up for a fight. And obviously everyone was pretty much questioning, hang on a second, is Hamilton actually really, is he really a good driver against his rivals? But obviously coming up against the likes of Sebastian Vettel, I mean, Sebastian Vettel is absolutely brilliant driver, is one of the best, I would say, definitely of the modern era, without a doubt. 4 world championships, about 47 wins, obviously multiple pole positions, multiple records as well. Obviously he's a very good driver. So I think these two coming up against each other, it was just really good, really entertaining for the sport as well, for obviously seeing probably two of the best drivers on the grid battle it out as well. But obviously things haven't really gone Ferrari's in Sebastian Vettel's way in recent times anyways.
Yeah, I mean, they're not winning at the moment, but moving on to when Ferrari did win 8 times at a Formula 1 track or a Formula 1 event at Zandvoort. It was called the Dutch Grand Prix because it was in the Netherlands. Zandvoort was a great circuit. It hosted Formula 1 from the start to 1985, which obviously was the last event. Now, the Netherlands, and for example its capital Amsterdam, has hosted Formula 1 events before that. The Formula 1 exhibition things, which are quite popular around the world, basically where the exhibition kind of events are when Formula 1, it doesn't have an event there, it doesn't have a race there, but it'll go to, for example, like a capital city or whatever, and there'll just be bollards put out, there'll be cones put out, fans can come normally for free and just watch a Formula 1 car go around. They can see a driver there, for example, like Max Verstappen's been there in the Red Bull car and the Toro Rosso car in the Netherlands, and just watch them drive around and things like that. So there is a lot of popularity there, and of course there was a lot of popularity at Zandvoort as well. Now, the F1 commercial boss, which is a guy called Sean Bretches, has been in touch with the Netherlands Automotive Society, which obviously governs Zandvoort and the Dutch Grand Prix Formula 1 coming back. Now, of course, when I mention Dutch, when I mention the Netherlands, when I mention even the slightest hint of orange, you of course think of Max Verstappen. There's no way you can't. You also think of things like Stoffel van Dorn, neighbouring in Belgium, big rival to him, or well, he was supposed to be anyway, in Spa. And using Spa for example, that was Max Verstappen's home race. It was supposed to be at that point. And that's good. It's good, but that's like us saying that, if we had a race that's like us saying, for example, like a French Grand Prix is our home race. I know it's a bad example, but you know what I mean. That's just it's good.
It's a close,
but it doesn't quite hit the spot. You know what I mean? It doesn't quite hit the spot. So bringing the Dutch Grand Prix back probably indirectly is for one reason only, and that is for Max Verstappen, isn't it, John? It's because of Max Verstappen, really.
Of course it is.
The atmosphere for him is amazing. We saw, for example, like things in Austria. He brought so many fans there. There was so many orange flag. I mean, they took over almost the stand, really. There was loads of fans in Britain as well, which, to be honest, not just Max Verstappen fans from around the world. You could tell they were from Holland. They had Dutch flags. They had Max Verstappen flag, 33 flags. They were dressed in orange, with the Flanders logo on. They were ready to go. Really, there was loads in Belgium as well. I mean, they took over Eau Rouge. It's just a shame that in Austria and Belgium's scenarios, Max unfortunately retired Belgium in front of Eau Rouge as well. But he brings fans wherever he can. He can fill a grandstand, can't he, John? He can fill a grandstand wherever he goes. I think. Even if you just said that Max Verstappen was going to be at an event, for example, like I said, the exhibitions in Amsterdam, when you feel that Max Verstappen's going to be there, he will fill out that place, wherever it is, whatever it is, even if it's a really freezing cold, winters, rainy, unbelievably snowy, whatever the situation is, whatever the weather conditions are, he's going to bring people out. Even if it's the apocalypse, he's going to bring people out, and that's what's really great about him. They have an amazing, atmosphere at the Dutch Grand Prix as well. The Dutch fans, as I just said. Now, they haven't had much success in Formula 1 before. Obviously, Max Verstappen became the first Dutch winner as well, along on the podium, along with in history, along with his father, Jos Verstappen. So they haven't been big in that way, but they've always been big in Formula 1. And basically, Zandvoort, it's a good circuit. It does need a little bit of revamping, a little bit like Spielberg when they brought that back, obviously commonly known as the A1 ring, or the Österreich ring, which was almost like a ring. But now, John, I mean, this hasn't been confirmed that it's going to be on the calendar. It's literally just in talks, but it has been in talks, and Autosport have confirmed it as well, which basically it gives people a lot of hope that we are going to get another race in Europe. It's going to be another close race. It's going to be another home race. It's going to be close because we can go there. I mean, we can get the ferry from Newcastle. You can get the ferry, obviously, from Calais. It's very accessible to go to. It will just be another event that, for example, like we can go to, and a lot of you guys can go to as well. So it's more accessibility. It's a great circuit. It'll get loads of publicity. We know Amsterdam and the Netherlands, very big in Formula 1, and of course the cherry on the cake, Max Verstappen. So Zandvoort, John, I mean, if that came back, I mean, just imagine, so let's say 2019 or 2020 Dutch Grand Prix, just kind of build us the kind of excitement for that race and how you think that would pan out. Not so much what would happen in the race, but just how you think the anticipation would be, how the sales would be, and do you think the event would be worth bringing back? Do you think that circuit would be worth bringing back?
Well, certainly at Zandvoort, without a doubt, definitely, because it's a classical circuit. As like you said, it hasn't been used since 1985, but it's been hosted some incredible races as well. It's down as probably one of the most demanding tracks where fans want to bring back now. Obviously, to answer your question, basically, I think there'll be two sides as that demanding it is. You've got your classical fans who obviously want all these old circuits to come back and just relive the moments as well. If you're from Holland, France, Spain, Germany, England, wherever, and you've been before and you're like, oh, I just want to relive the good old days, get all back together and just be like, oh man, times are so good back in the day. And obviously, it'll be great for us fans. Obviously the new generation who have never seen the Dutch Grand Prix, have never seen a race at Zandvoort before. It would be awesome to see. The other side is the popularity of Max Verstappen now. The fans will be flooding the gates. It'll be orange upon orange upon orange. Like seriously, I'll be like, I'm either at the Dutch Grand Prix or a Tangerine Factory. I really don't know where I'm at today. Honestly, it's absolutely. The noise will be electric. I know that for a doubt because we've seen them at Spa, we've seen them at Austria. The fans are absolutely incredible support. And again, at Silverstone as well, even some British fans support Max Verstappen. Yeah. That's how popular this kid is. And ticket sales, obviously, would literally be sold out within, I'll probably say, minutes, days, weeks. I don't know how long. I don't know. I think they released them in sections. So obviously,
the thing that gets me about Verstappen,
festival tickets
John,
or whatever.
The thing that gets me about Verstappen is the fact that, as you said, I mean, people from England support Max, but the fact that Dutch fans, actually, like people, born and bred in Holland, obviously support Max Verstappen, they've supported him all the way through his career, they actually travel all that way. For example, like Austria, it's something like like 1,200 kilometres away, from the Netherlands to Austria. But they made that trip. They travelled to Catalonia, they travelled up to Silverstone. But actually at the campsite, for example, when I went, there was cars with NL number plates on. I mean, it probably would take, for example, like maybe 15 hours, let's say, to get from the Netherlands to Northampton. But you're still travelling, and you're still loyal Dutch fans. It's not just a team. For example, like Monza is all red for Ferrari. There was some Sebastian Vettel supporters, but it was all Ferrari, like the big team. This isn't a team. There might be some Red Bull fans, there might be some Daniel Ricciardo fans because of his teammate and because of his kind of surroundings. But it is all for one guy, which is really insane, really. That's what really gets you. Ferrari, Italy, people support Ferrari in Italy at the Italian Grand Prix, but this is all about one guy. It's honestly, it's so crazy, and as John said, it will honestly, the sales will go probably faster than any music festival you'll have ever seen, in your lifetime.
I think Glass would be like, yeah, I can just sell out tickets for millions and millions upon loads and loads of tickets globally. Dutch Grand Prix, hold my beer. I think that's the situation it'll be going as. But it's just crazy to think that you go to the Australian Grand Prix. Obviously, it's going to be Daniel Ricciardo territory. The fans love him, but it doesn't have the same feel. There's not fans who I think that I can't imagine like a massive grandstand full of Daniel Ricciardo flags or whatever. I can't say that, and I can't say it. I mean, I've seen it with Stoffel. I didn't see enough with Stoffel, but obviously he's a brand new driver, so maybe time will tell. Obviously, Max Verstappen pretty much took over in a country where he's not even from, so there you go. So obviously Stoffel's just like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But in other countries as well, where the driver obviously. Excluding Italy, obviously they just support the team, but even for Germany, for Sebastian Vettel, for Nico Rosberg when he was in Formula 1 as well, it's like, yeah, we support you, but we want to see Hamilton, we want to see whoever, and you still get quite loads of obviously Dutch supporters from there. But I can imagine the main straight, whether that's on the streets of Amsterdam or Rotterdam or where is my ham, Hilton, good joke there, or if it is at Zandvoort, I can imagine the pit straight, grandstands everywhere, and it'll just be a sea of orange. It will be. Home support will be incredible. The support of Max Verstappen will be incredible. Also, sales in obviously probably Red Bull drinks, Red Bull shirts, obviously because come with the driver, come with the team. Aston Martin deals. I think Aston Martin may probably set up base. And it is good to see as well, because obviously Max Verstappen is a guy in high demand right now. Obviously he's linked with the top teams as well. He's did for big things as well. The people love him, we love him, you love him. Hopefully Max Verstappen loves him. Ricciardo, maybe one day, I really don't know. But I mean, obviously it is a very high demand. It is very high demanding, and I think for Formula 1 as well, money wise, you will make a lot of money going to the Dutch Grand Prix. Now I know there is talks about them looking into go to Vietnam. And I'm like, no, don't go to Vietnam. Well, I don't know why. I really don't know why. Scrap that. Go fight for this Dutch Grand Prix, because you will make more money going to Holland than what you will going to Vietnam or bloody Korea or wherever you've been or going. It is absolutely incredible. I mean, you get the support for Hamilton at Silverstone, but the support for Max Verstappen, it's just absolutely crazy. So. Obviously, I'm asking this question. Do you want it to say at Zandvoort, or do you want to see a brand new circuit in the streets of, let's say, Amsterdam?
Yeah, I mean,
which one do you want personally?
I mean, a city event, would be quite hard. That's already been kind of discussed. For example, like when they try to look at London. Yeah. But moving aside from that, it has to be Zandvoort. Because, for example, when they were revamping Spielberg, when they were revamping the Österreich ring, they could have just done a brand new circuit, but they had to do that and they had to revamp it, and they've done that with other circuits. So it has to be a Zandvoort, and also the fans will love it as well, because obviously there will be people there who will have been to the 1985 edition, the people there who will have watched the race evolve in its time, and also people watch things like Ferrari. So even kind of referring to, as I said, Sebastian Vettel, might even be some old Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel fans there. So they need to stay at Zandvoort. It's great. It's in a good location. I mean, it's an okay track. Revamp it and stuff. Build more grandstands. As I say, get some Max Verstappen stuff on the go, ready for the fans when they get there, and it will be great. It's also great, John. As I said, I mean, we would go, and I'll tell you something as well. I would love to go as well. It's not too hard to get to.
I think we should.
It would be really, really anticipated. It would be really, really popular. And I'll tell you something as well, right? Red Bull, don't let Max down, especially not in his home race, and especially don't make him retire in front of a grandstand that's covered in orange. A bit like what happened in Austria, which was Austria and Belgium. more Belgium, which was obviously very unfortunate. And again, as I said, I mean, I was talking to this guy that I know down here who went to the race, and he was in Eau Rouge, and he watched Max Verstappen retire, and he saw all the Dutch fans looking at him like, oh my god, what's going on? It's a little bit like when Seb retired in Silverstone 2013, right in front of the pit straight, but that being in Hockenheim or Nürburgring, full of German fans supporting Sebastian Vettel, you know what I mean? So that would be very embarrassing. But no, that would be really fantastic. Zandvoort, get some Max Verstappen stuff on the go and get it back for, let's say, 2019 or 2020. But on the calendar side, we're absolutely packed. We're going to do a French Grand Prix next year. We're doing a Portuguese Grand Prix. We're looking at all these circuits. We're going to end up with a calendar that's about 25, 26, 27 strong. And, you know what I mean, they're going to be absolutely swamped with races, and they'll start be cutting them. It'll be so bad. It'd be so like it's such a headache. But John, I mean, would you like to see it in Zandvoort as well, or again, would you like to see it on Amsterdam Street?
I would like to see it at Zandvoort, but if it is on the street, I wouldn't complain. I would prefer Zandvoort, but I wouldn't be bothered if it was the streets, because at the end of the day, the fans will be absolutely passionate. But yes, obviously, what you were saying there, Lyle, about having a jam-packed calendar, it's bad. I would say it's bad for the teams, because obviously that means the guys have to work longer. It's going to be a lot harder as well. I think the limit might be 24, 25 races in a single season should all these races come about. But obviously that'll be good for us, hard for us as well, because all these GP preview shows we have to record as well. But as well, next season, I think you have the French, the Austrian, and the British Grand Prix all back to back. I think it's in that order. 3 weeks consecutively. That's the first ever time that's happened. So instead of these 2 week back to back, these one race 1 week, then another one straight after, it's going to be one, then one off the bounce. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Hopefully, maybe we can get four races off the bounce, and maybe even 4, even 5 in the space of a month, let's say, because that would be absolutely incredible to see. Anyways, but obviously, guys, as always, let us know your opinion in the comment section below about obviously the Dutch Grand Prix. Are you a Dutch fan? Let us know in the comment section below. Do you want to see the race back in your home country? And if so, where at Zandvoort, in the streets of Rotterdam, Amsterdam, or 59 points behind Hamilton? Who knows if you're Sebastian Vettel supporter there. I tried to say that the first time, but then I mucked up my joke, so then I thought I'd throw it in there for the second time for all them Sebastian Vettel fans out there. So obviously love you all. But obviously, as always, leave your opinions in the comment section below. But anyways, guys, this is where we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you very much for watching as well. If you haven't seen the last episode 73, go and check that out. Obviously, we discussed again on more Dutch purposes about Max Verstappen as well. So obviously, if you like this episode, go and check out that episode as well. Go and check out the GP preview show that will come out very, very soon after this episode, because obviously there is no race this weekend, unfortunately. So obviously, hopefully that we're taking up your time by obviously getting you over the line for a no Grand Prix weekend. Because obviously get ready, guys, because the season is coming to an end, and obviously we will be very, very soon for the end of the season. But anyway, guys, we've been there for the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well if you're new around here, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.